Hello everybody, this is JT Productions and welcome back to another 2023 preview and prediction video. Today I'll be doing the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Let's jump right into it. Last season, Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy went 7-6 with a bowl loss to Wisconsin. Now, Oklahoma State started out the season pretty strong. They had wins over Arizona State, who ended up not being that good, against Baylor and Texas Tech before having a 2-overtime loss to TCU. But after that, they bounced back with a win over Texas. But the big game that really turned their season on its side was at Kansas State. Apparently, during this week of practice, Mike Gundy did something, derived the way they had been practicing, and didn't let some guys that were healing up practice with the team, which led to them losing to Kansas State 48-0. That carried over to the next week against Kansas, where they lost 37-16. They bounced back a little bit with a win over Iowa State 20-14, but the last 2 weeks they lost to Oklahoma and West Virginia 28-13 and 24-19. The team was just not the same after that loss to Kansas State. Then in the game against Wisconsin, their offense really just couldn't find a gear, and they lost 24-17. So, not that good of a season for Mike Gundy, especially the second half of that season. So, let's look at the roster to see what he's working with this year. Well, you lose Spencer Sanders, but you add in Alan Bowman, who's a former Texas Tech quarterback who went to Michigan, and now he's back in the Big 12 at Oklahoma State. So how good will he be? Well, we'll just have to see. At running back, you have Ollie Gordon and Jaden Nixon. You also get transfer Elijah Collins coming in from Michigan State. So we'll see if he can't get in the rotation as well. Wide receivers, you have Jaden Bray, Blaine Green, and Dijon Stripling coming in from Washington State. Leon Johnson III comes in from George Fox. And you have Josiah Johnson coming in from UMass at tight end. On the offensive line, you had Dalton Cooper coming in from Texas State at tackle. And you also bring back a good chunk of your offensive line. On the defensive side, you have Nathan Latu. You have a couple of transfers in Justin Kirkland coming in from Utah Tech. Anthony Goodlow coming in from Tulsa, both on the D-line. At linebacker, Justin Wright coming in from Tulsa as well. Let's see. Besides that, I really don't recognize a lot of these players. You have Xavier Benson at linebacker. But yeah. With that being said, let's look at how I think Mike Gundy and this Oklahoma State team are going to do this year. Well, to start out the year, you play Central Arkansas. You should be able to win that game easily. Then you have your first real test on the road at Arizona State against Kenny Dillingham and that Sun Devil team. Now, I just think that the talent acquisition is still a little bit better with Oklahoma State than it is Arizona State. So I'm going to give Oklahoma State the slight edge and give them the win here. Then you come back home to play South Alabama. I would not be sleeping on South Alabama, but Oklahoma State is well coached enough to where I don't think that they're going to lose a game like this. So I'll give you the win here before going on the road to Iowa State. Here is where I think you take your first loss. Iowa State, well, they're going to be trying to figure out who their quarterback is. They still have a pretty decent roster around him. And by week 4, I'd say that they have it, but he's going to be still getting used to it. I think you drop this one in Ames in an unsuspected loss. Then going into the bye week, you're 3-1. You come out of it to play Kansas State. Kansas State is going to be a very good team this year in the Big 12. I don't think that you're going to be able to get completely revenge back, but I think you'll be more competitive in this game this year. So I think you drop this one as well. Then you stay home to play Kansas. I think that your physicality and the way that Mike Gundy's coaching is going to be good enough for them to beat Kansas. While they do have Jalen Daniels, their depth is still an issue. So I have Oklahoma State beating Kansas. Next up, you go on the road to West Virginia, and This is going to be a tough game on the road at West Virginia. Never an easy place to play. Neil Brown, while he's been very mediocre, still has had some pretty decent wins. And I think this is going to be one of them. I think Oklahoma State drops a game here at West Virginia before coming back home for homecoming against Cincinnati. I do think you beat Cincinnati before playing Oklahoma, though. Now, one thing I have not mentioned is this schedule plus Oklahoma's is one of the easier conference schedules in the Big 12. So next up, after your loss to Oklahoma, you have back-to-back road games against UCF and Houston. I think you win one of these, and I think you lose one of these. I think you lose to UCF, and I think you beat Houston. UCF has a very polarizing player by the name of John Rice Plumlee, and the bounce house can get rocking. So I think I picked that one to be your loss. Then the end of the season, you play BYU, and I think you get a win here to end the season strong at 7-5. Sorry. The BYU game, I just think that they're going to be beat up by this point in the season. Same thing with Houston. With playing an all Power 5 schedule, besides like 3 games, it's very difficult to, by the end of the year, be at full strength. It's almost impossible. So I have Oklahoma State going 7-5. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and Go Dogs.